Hugo from Ichiban Painting, and today I wanted to give a little try again at doing a video tutorial. I've been trying for a couple of weeks to do a tutorial on different projects and trying different ways of filming and everything. It's kind of not that easy because the camera I have, it's a DSLR, it's a photo camera, and it's not made to take videos. I can take videos with it, but it doesn't autofocus and everything, and it makes it a little bit harder to to take a video. So I just wanted to do a try, at least to do a tutorial video on the Space Marines, the Ultramarines, because these ones are popular as hell. I don't know, but for me, I do a lot of commission for them, and I have a lot of clients wanting them, so I wanted to do a tutorial that would cover how to do it. So my way of doing it is, the first thing is that I prime the minis with Tamiya fine spray primer. I don't know if it's the exact name for it, but that's what I use, Tamiya spray can primer. Then what I do is I shoot the whole miniature black, and after it's been base coated black, I will use hold on a second, just because I use Vallejo, right? So I use Vallejo Colors 72019, which is night blue, and I will shoot the whole miniature night blue. It's a really, already it's a dark color, the night blue, and when you shoot on top of black, it's even darker. It's almost like a purpley darkish blue. And what I do after that is that I'll shoot the miniature, but let me put this one aside. So what I do is that basically I take the miniature and because I use an airbrush, right? And I take my airbrush and I shoot the top of the miniature. So the whole area around here is going to be covered in ultramarine blue really easily. And then after that, what I do is I take my airbrush but lightly shoot on this area, so you have the color, but it creates a graded or a fade area, so that the lower parts are going to be a little bit darker. As you can see, if you turn it around here, it's really dark, so that's the dark blue that I have. But if you look at from the top, it's the normal ultramarine blue. So that's how I do it for the base coat to get to this point here. So I use night blue and ultramarine blue, and I get this effect right now with the airbrush. It gives a clean, nice look. But if you turn it around, here is darker, and then if you put it in that way, it's gonna be lighter. So it really gives a good shadow effect. Then my second step is I really like to use dry brushing, because depends on how you do it. If you do a heavy dry brush, you're gonna see brush stroke. But if I put these two guys together, you see that this guy has been dry brushed with Electric Blue from Vallejo, and this guy hasn't been done yet. So that's my second step when I go into making the dry brush, is that I want to get this effect right here. Let me zoom in if you can guys see. I'll put pictures just to so you can see the steps in between. This guy that has been highlighted looks like really, the armor looks a little bit worn. It looks natural and gives it the pop compared to this guy here that it has a nice color, but it's not the same thing. It gives it more natural. A lot of painter, what they do is that they're gonna take their brush and they're gonna highlight the contours of the parts, like here, the knee guards and stuff like that. But I personally think, in my style, that it doesn't give a natural look. It looks like you took a paintbrush and you highlighted it like that. It gets on the area too. It gives a little bit of grainy look to the finish, like if it was a real armor made of metal that is actually worn out. So the thing to do for the dry brush, it's really easy. You're gonna dab your paintbrush. Use a brush that has a heavy, not heavy, but a harder sorry, I lost myself. A harder the brush, actually the air on the brush will be a little bit harder, which is gonna be easy. So what I do is I do take out the paint as to a point that I almost have no paint on my brush, because if you put too much paint, the brush strokes are not going to be the same. And what I do is I go in and I just start hitting the miniature really lightly, and this needs to be really done lightly hold on a second, I need to get to an angle where I can see what I'm doing. So you need to do it, like I said, really lightly so that you don't have brush stroke, but it does get on the miniature randomly. And I try to use the, when I dry brush, I try to do it as much as I can in not a, you know, the same pattern, but I try to go and cover so in random way, so my brush does hit the edges in any way possible. Hold on a second, just gonna reposition myself so you guys on camera can see it well, but I can also see what I'm doing. So going in and trying to be really random with hitting everything with the brush, and just going and working my way all around and trying to cover the whole area of the miniature and give it really a nice look. And on the areas where you have the night blue, where the night blue is more present, it's gonna pop even more. And on the areas where the ultramarine blue is, it's gonna be a little bit more subtle, but still you're still gonna be able to see it. So I try to work my way around the miniature, cover all the areas around the miniature. You know, some areas I don't care about, like the helmet. The helmets on these ones are gonna be painted white, and the sergeant is gonna have a red helmet, but it's so I don't cover these areas. But that's how I do. I work my way in. Now you can see the technique. You know, it's a dry brush, but really light, so it doesn't give, or it doesn't show brush marks. So I'm going to stop right there because you already noticed. I'm going to finish it. It's not finished 100%, but you already know you can already see it's still not as the same as this one, but you can see the progression. So really a light dry brush is going to get you towards this finish, which is going to look like a little bit like a worn out armor. I'm going to give you an example here. I have one that is finished, and if you can see, you know, looks like his armor is really for the parts that you can see. Hold on a second. Wow, everything's falling apart. Okay, here we go, focus. Looks like his armor is really worn out, but it's still really cool looking. So that's it for this part of the tutorial, how to get the ultramarine look and feel to have really cool armor, cool looking armor. Basically, if you work with the same if you work with not an airbrush like I do, if you can do the same thing, but the only difference is going to be the shading with the night blue and the ultramarine blue is going to be a little bit harder to achieve, but it's still, you know, it's still achievable. Or you can paint the whole miniature you know, ultramarine blue, and then use this technique after. It's going to give you almost the same result. It doesn't matter, you know, dry brushing is dry brushing. Doesn't change if you're using an airbrush or not. So what I'll do is I'll try to make this tutorial in parts, so it's not too long, but I can also cover all the areas of how I work my way and how I do my miniature. So this is probably going to be part 1, and I'll do a part 2 really soon.
Like an edge of a samurai sword, the mental blade cut through flesh and bone. No, my mind